All right, we're live. So, hello everybody. Welcome to the TST meeting here. This one is going to be just a fairly open-ended one. The only thing that we have on the agenda is to provide a brief update on the Apache Karaf 4.2x work that's been going on with primarily led by Ray and myself. And also give a little bit of an update on Java 9, 10. And then we can open it up. So, Ray, do you want to start it up with, or do you want me to give an?
Yeah. So I don't know how much people have been following the check-ins, but we're currently working on 3 releases in ONOS right now. We have 1.14 that's in maintenance mode. We have master, which is 1.15, and then there's a special dev Karaf 4.2.1 branch that is going to become ONOS 2.0. That has basically just been a playground for Thomas and I to be able to share code and have some resiliency in case of loss of computers or whatever. So we've been working forward on this Karaf 2.1 branch, which the intention for 2.0 is to support the latest version of Karaf, Java 10, and was there anything else? Oh, and the start on the
code-based
disaggregation.
Correct.
Yeah, so like getting rid of the incubator and maybe pulling out some of the apps into their own repos, that kind of stuff. We made the decision that this is probably too big of a change to call this code 1.15 because anyone who's written any code that references the OSGI stuff is going to be broken with the new Karaf. So we decided to just cut and run and call it 2.0. So anyway, that's where we stand with that. In terms of the Karaf support, right now we are running on Karaf 4.2.1, which is the first version they produced that in theory supports Java 10. That tree is now being built with Java 9. We're not building with Java 10 yet. What we're building with is the default JDK that comes with Bazel, which is the OpenJDK Java 9 version. So a lot of work with Thomas and I have been doing. We're at the point now where most things work, I would say. I think we're in actually better shape than I hoped at this point. The GUI works, the CLI works, STC passes. We still have some, I was mentioning before we started the call, the way that configurable properties are handled in the new OSGI is quite different than the way we were doing with the old Karaf, and so that's required a lot of sort of hand edits, which is
and a little background on that. Previously, a lot of the instrumentation that was done of the Java code was done using Felix specific properties. Now this was under Karaf 3.0. Now since then many years have passed. Well, I think four years have passed. And a lot of the stuff that was under Felix umbrella has now moved into this generic OSGI standard. It's not unlike what has happened with Hibernate and JPA, the Java persistency. Basically, where things, sort of the useful standards in Hibernate were kind of made generic agnostic of Hibernate, and where it applied it was different potential. Same sort of thing happened here with Apache Felix and OSGI. Things were basically promoted more into this standard OSGI land. And because these things are out of our control, and they affect backwards compatibility of the code, this is one of the reasons we're kind of forced into a major version upgrade, as Ray indicated. Yeah. And so I think that's one of the pending changes, cleanup things that still has to be done, but I expect that will probably be done in a couple of days, because we can divide and conquer it between us. And we've also asked other developers, specifically Jen, who's been adding, let's say, command line in new commands, which have also changed slightly in how they're annotated, to kind of share the burden and cherry pick those changes onto the development branch.
The model that the OSGI consortium is going towards, very much based on annotations. Whereas in the old scheme, I don't know if you guys remember how you write a CLI command, you have this goofy XML file, it has a blueprint and blah, 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 and you can never figure out how things are hooked up. That's all wrong. You annotate your source now and say, hey, this is a command, here are my completers, here are the values I expect, here are my default values, boom, it's all in one place. It's actually much nicer, but we've got 100-some commands in the system. It's just a lot of typing to get that all working. So, we'll get there.
Also, a note of interest here, we will be removing the bug files from that development branch, because we will basically no longer be carrying bug forward. It will still remain on a 115, on what's current master, and most likely at some point in the near future, we will cut out 115, kind of the last 115 release, before switching over to the 2.0. So basically, product of the Peacock release cycle will actually be 2 releases, 115 and 2.0.
Right.
Just Tom, one question on that. How would we go about having a period where any change that went in gets, after we branched off for the Karaf branch, gets checked and it's cross-referenced to make sure that everything goes in both?
So I'll let Ray answer it.
So what we've been doing is basically every couple of days, I've been doing a merge from master back into the dev branch. I think the goal would be, I don't understand the Git level stuff, but the conceptual goal would be at some point we decide that 115, which is now master, is done.
Exactly.
And what we'll do is we'll make the branch we now call master the maintenance branch for 115. We'll make what's now Thomas's and my playground master, and then it's normal. Then you just do your cherry picks the way you normally would.
Correct. So actually, the code-based disaggregation and the incubator cleanup will happen all on a master that's been labeled 2.0.
Right.
None of that stuff will happen on 115. So basically, all of ONOS 1X will be structured the same way as it's always been, under single repo with incubator, using Apache Karaf 3 and Java 8. That will remain kind of static. And I think that is fitting because that is all compatible with each other. Once we make the break once we promote master to 2.0, that's when we're going to start doing incubator cleanup, code-based disaggregation, and other things like that. Hopefully that answers your question, Andrea.
Yes, just a follow-up on that. What would be I would say, a support cycle? Because, I mean, we had a 2-release support cycle in the sense that if bug fixes and things went bad, we could port them back 2 releases. But with this major change, there could be some big hurdle to port back 2 releases. Would we say that any major feature that gets developed on the 2.0 would be on whoever develops it to bring it back? Or what would be the policy in there?
So I can take this, Thomas. My feeling is there will be no feature development in 115 unless we're absolutely forced to by deployments. 115 will go into support mode. We'll continue to fix bugs. Of course, there's going to be issues where things won't merge cleanly, but I don't see anybody implementing like a whole new app, for example, on 115. I just don't think that's a good use of resources to backward that. I don't know what
and
you
if
think,
people choose, well, I agree, at least not by our resources. Now, if somebody decides that they would like to have the same app or same functionality on both 1X and 2X, it's up to them to do the conversion and cherry picking.
Yeah, and once we've kind of got everything straight so that it's actually working on 2.0, I do intend to write a cookbook to tell people how to, if they do have any code that's dependent on the sort of 1.x versions of things, it's a fairly mechanical and straightforward process. So it's my intention to draw up a cookbook and hopefully that will be useful for people. So anyway, that's the Karaf stuff. In terms of Java, like I said, we're on Java 9 right now. I've modified things again such that we don't use the local JDK for anything that you run on your Mac. It's all done through Bazel. So my hope is that I can either find or write Bazel rules that will upgrade us to Java 10, and people won't even know it. It'll just work, and that'll be what they're using. The issue going forward will be things like the QA machines, the cell machines. Those use a JDK that's actually installed. They don't run things through Bazel. We'll have to figure out a way of versioning those.
Yeah. And it should be noted that we're still compiling the code with the Java 8 source and compatibility and target compatibility. Right, which means that it can actually, the SDC machines are running with Java 8. And we don't seem to notice any discrepancies between running ONOS and using different versions.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, it'll be a different decision to decide when we allow people to actually use Java 10 features.
Correct.
That's a different issue.
Yeah.
We really want to. 1.8 has been end of lifed, and they're threatening to put like commercial licensing and stuff on the Oracle JDK. So we just really want to go with what Bazel provides, which is the most up-to-date and stable Open JDK. That's kind of the goal.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there anything else?
No, I think that's it. So.
Yeah,
I think regarding the timeline, I mean, I don't want to force anything before it's ready, but most likely, probably sometimes before the middle of November is when the split would happen.
Right. My assumption is like any demos we do for the ONF Connect or whatever, that'll all be on 1.15. I don't see any reason to add a whole bunch of extra potential variables into stuff like that. This is all sort of, building the foundation such that we can make a clean cut over. There's also going to be, my assumption is there's going to be a lot of problems that QA finds in the 2.0 because there is so much code that's changed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just fixed something yesterday that was just some stupid cut and paste issue that I had done when I had gone through one of these mechanical passes to fix stuff. There's going to be a lot of things like that. So I think we're going to need a little bit more soak time for 2.0 than we're used to.
Yeah. Anyway, so any other questions on this topic, or if not, you can move on to some other topic if people have one.
I have another topic. I might be slightly went on, or at least don't know this, but so I saw Jordan publishing a new white paper, I would say, or implementation paper about consensus protocol that he plans to use in Atomics 3, which is called Zwim. And I wanted to know what's the relationship between that and what we previously used with the Raft consensus protocol. If there is any, if I'm mistaken.
That would be a question for Jordan. Unfortunately, he's not on. I think he's still a little bit under weather. He's having cough last 2 days. So I honestly don't have an answer for you. That's a good question.
Okay, no problem. Thanks. I'll send him an email.
Yeah, so you're gonna be here, Andrea, in the beginning of, or I should say, at the end of November, right? In the beginning of December.
Yes.
It's great.
Yes.
For ONF Connect primarily.
Yes, exactly.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to seeing you.
Just on a side note, I think we could. I know you have an ONOS talk, an update on ONOS during ONF Connect. Could be good to do an official sort of a release of 2.0 at the ONF Connect.
I agree, it would be good, but I think it'll be done when it's ready. I think right now we're giving ourselves till middle of December, and as Ray suggested, it may require additional scope time. Now we could potentially cut scope on some of the code-based disaggregation. Maybe just do a incubator cleanup instead, and move off the code-based disaggregation in the case that things might be ready in time. But yeah, I'm interested in doing the switch over to the master, to 2.0 on master as I guess as early as possible. so that it can get the required soak time by QA. However, there's also another thing is currently we're building against Karaf 4.2.1, which is the latest release. But that has some defect in there. Specifically, one defect that impacts us is the raw SSH from cross platforms. Let's say like from a Mac to Ubuntu or from Windows to Ubuntu. They don't respect the new lines, platform new lines of the client, and so what happens is the output ends up being kind of staggered without the carriage return, and which is unreadable. The built-in client works, but we would prefer not to use the built-in client. And this issue has already been fixed on 4.2.2 snapshot. Verified this actually yesterday. And but unfortunately, the 4.2.2 release is not expected to arrive until end of November, which again might impact the soak time because we would like to get as much soak time not only using ONOS itself, but also using the platform on top of which we're running, which is the Karaf. So we have to decide how we're going to deal with it. We may actually choose to go forward with 4.2.1 and just patch it with that single fix to the new line. Anyway, so there's still some decisions to be made which may impact when we would be willing to do the release. Really, the idea is to do release in December before we go on a holiday break for sure, but I might be reluctant to move it up by a couple of weeks, just for the sake of it being ready for ONF Connect.
Is your intention that we'll talk this up at ONF Connect?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. There's no question. And then we may have to do some disambiguation too, because I think the ONOS 2.0 was a kind of a phrase that was used in with reference to kind of a new generation of ONOS. So we may need to come up with a different name, because I think we need to use this name for major release of the existing architecture. That's just as a side note.
I mean, the other one could be 3.0.
Yeah.
Nothing prevents us.
Sure, right. Exactly. Numbers are cheap, or yeah.
Numbers are cheap.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so.
So, okay, just since we're in the process of doing the updates, yesterday Ray has run another minor release of maintenance release of 1.14.
Yep.
What is it? 1.14?
1.14.1.
Okay.
And we're going to do 1.13.6 today.
And this is in support of the CBA project. They required some additional instrumentation from the ONOS meters, I think.
Yep.
And so.
Yeah, and anyone who's been trying to do any development work over the last 2 days knows that our Jenkins is in very seriously bad shape. I've pinged the Linux Foundation twice, not gotten a response, so I don't know.
Yeah, no response at all.
Yeah.
No response at all. It's taking an hour for jobs to transit off the queue onto a running system, and they don't seem to care. So what can I do?
Anyway, so I realized that this meeting was a little bit kind of not really vision oriented, but more kind of down in the trenches. But I think it's important to know for people to know what's happening in trenches as well.
Yeah.
We'll make up for it in some future meetings. We're looking at more forward direction stuff.
One thing I will point out, since we've got developers on the call here, when we do this cutover to 2.0. We'll really need everyone to try out their favorite apps, because I feel like QA uses the ones we use in deployments, but there are so many test apps. There are so many little, I call them science project apps, that allow people kind of to get into ONOS and throw some parameters at it and watch what it's doing. I have no idea how to test these things. So, if you have favorite kind of ones of those that you use, be prepared to have to fix some things once we make the cutover.
Yeah, we're definitely clearly relying heavily on unit tests. So all of the unit tests are working as they were working before, so that's good. So if something's unit tested, then it will remain unit tested. We're not cutting anything out. We're not ignoring any tests. And same thing with the STC. We're evaluating all of the scenarios and making sure that those work as they were previously expected to work. And similar for whatever QA is going to be running coverage for.
Yep.
However, as Ray pointed out, we definitely have some blind spots with respect to some of the smaller apps which are not covered by any of these. So definitely will require kind of a community participation to validate this. All right. If there is no other topics, then we can probably call it done.
Okay.
Anyone?
Actually, one question. So Calix has been looking at the DCS subsystem quite a bit, and we've been looking at the Jira logs too. I don't have too much history about it, but there's mention in the Jira log something called like a DCS 2.0. But I don't see any more evidence of what a DCS 2.0 actually is or what the plans are. I'm just wondering if you can give some insight into this.
Sure, yeah. So the DCS 2.0 is a basic dynamic configuration system 2.0 that was spawned as part of the ODTN project, which is the optical disaggregated network stuff. They had a need to be able to configure some of the optical elements using TAPI and other Yang models and OpenModem. And the 2.0 work was spawned to address some of the limitations of the existing DCS subsystem, specifically to be able to do things like have atomic updates with respect to a single device at least, so that you could roll back the configuration if something went awry in the middle. To be able to also do more efficient updates to the entire subtrees and be able to receive notifications which have been kind of summarized rather than being receiving a barrage of notifications for every change within a subtree, and things like that. Also to be able to add support for what if type things, like basically preview of what's happening when you apply configuration and delta-based updates. And then changes like that. However, that effort has stalled out, I would say, probably early in the summer, and it has not really moved, which is why you don't see any additional movement on it.
Okay, but it sounds like the majority of the work for 2.0 has been implemented, though.
I actually do not know. I don't think.
Victor?
Yes.
So if I may, as Thomas said, yes, that was a project that spawned out of the ODTN reference design. And it also tries to address some of the needs of the UPenn reference design, especially in the configuration around GNMI and OpenConfig. I've started a document about the implementation of DCS 2.0 with some requirements. As Thomas said, late summer, August. I've been talking also with Jordan Halterman about some implementation details. And the problem is that we have no resources to get the implementation done. I do have a fairly general idea of what should be done. The problem is that, as I said, there is no implementation detail. There is a use case from NTT and the UPenn people. I would be very much happy to know about your use case and how we could work together to make that happen, and understand also why you would need such a system. So if you're interested, we can organize maybe a separate call for that.
Yeah, because what Andrea just described is basically our attempt to steer the community into rebooting that project. Because when I said that it stalled early in the summer, that was with the previous kind of staffing, which has dissipated, and so Andrea has been kind of charged with attempting to reboot the project. And so we would very much welcome the community participation to help with that.
Okay, then I will talk to my peers and I'll get back to you on this then.
That'd be great.
Yeah, and what I can do, if you send me an email, andrea@opennetworking.org, I can drop you a few links about the possible implementations that we're looking at and the possible details of that, and we can start a discussion from there.
Great then. Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much.
All right, that was a good question. If there is nothing else, then we can then call it a day. All right. We'll see you in 2 weeks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.